What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and it's time to check out some more Reddit posts, so let's get into it, friends. Entitled sister-in-law wants custody of my baby. I'm a 36-year-old female and my sister-in-law is 40. I've been married to her brother for over 10 years, and there's always been some jealousy and resentment from her. She's always felt like I had the life she wanted. Not necessarily with her brother, but the marriage, family, job stability, etc. I have 3 kids, a 10-year-old female, 8-year-old male, and 3-month female. She got married last year and they decided to start trying for a baby, but she was unfortunately told that she can't have children naturally. She was understandably devastated and the family comforted her as best as we could. We recently had a family dinner and in the middle of it she says, "OP, I think it's really unfair that you got to have 3 kids and I can't have any. Your baby is my last chance to raise a child. So I think you should give her to me during the week so I can create a motherly bond with her, and you can have her on the weekends." Before I could respond, the entire table erupted with everyone talking at once, so I took my older kids upstairs. When I got back to the dining room, her husband was asking what the hell is wrong with her, and why would she even think to ask that? She was trying to justify herself when I asked them to leave. I also said that she's no longer welcomed at my house or around my children until she gets help. She started screaming that I don't deserve my life, or my children, and that I stole her baby from her. Her husband and mother-in-law kept apologizing, and dragged her out of the house, still crying and screaming. Now my kids want to know why their aunt wants to take the baby. And someone in the comments shared a similar experience. They said, "I'm sorry to say I've been through this situation twice. Once during my marriage of 40 years as well as in my brief starter marriage. During the former, a sister-in-law joked endlessly about taking one of my sons, which became deeply unfunny in very little time. When at last she bore her own son, she left my 3 alone. During the latter marriage, I had wisely chosen not to procreate, which became the problem. In the eyes of my infertile sister-in-law, my womb was just sitting there. Why couldn't I be inseminated by my brother-in-law via turkey baster? My own selfishness, my in-laws concluded, prevented me from gestating, giving birth to, and surrendering the newborn to a deeply entitled couple whose religious, political, and social affiliations in no way reflected my own. I got out of that family soon after several holiday meals had degenerated into shouting and sobbing, sometimes both at once." And on a similar topic, here's this one as well. Dad tries to give away teenage daughter's womb. Recently connected with a childhood best friend, and it reminded me of this insane interaction decades ago when we were 17. I spent a lot of time at my best friend's house when we were young. Her family was a lot nicer, wealthier, and more normal than mine, and her parents even took me in for a month when I had to leave home at a young age. So we're hanging out, and one day her dad comes in really angry at her, just being generally rude and saying, "Are you still being selfish?" Really passive-aggressive, and then walks away. I was like, damn, what did you do to Steve? Thinking it was teenager stuff. But she gets really upset. She tells me Dad's friends have been trying to get pregnant for a year now, and just confirmed they can't have a baby. He asks her to consider being their surrogate. She really doesn't even know these people. Has spent maybe an hour with them in her life. Also, we're 17, so that's insane. I kind of thought she was embellishing a story to me. But then he starts saying it right in front of me a week later. I'm paraphrasing, but what I remember was basically, "These people mean so much to me. Why can't you think of anyone but yourself? You could change their life. You could really do something amazing here. We would all have this incredible connection and share the love of this baby. Do this for me." She just kind of awkwardly looks away until he leaves, and then starts crying. He pestered her about it until she turned 18 and left on bad terms. He never got over it. The crazy part is, both couples were old and rich, and could have easily bought a real surrogate or adopted. I'll never know why he insisted it had to be her. I kind of want to ask her if he ever came to his senses, but I moved away and we lost touch for the last 10 years. It would be weird to bring it up now. I just had to get this insanity off my chest. My stepmother gets her just desserts after my father passed. My stepmother married my dad 10 years ago when I was 35. From the start, she was awful. She would listen in on every phone call. We didn't find that out for years. She made sure he didn't see his grandkids anymore, just hers. He wasn't allowed to see us either. Plans were made by him and canceled by her. The worst part is, when he was very sick with cancer, she refused point blank to keep us updated on his health. She told us in a group text that we were mean to her, so we didn't get the information. How were we mean? We didn't send her cards and flowers on Mother's Day. Sometimes he would call me because she forgot to take his phone away from him after he was so ill and couldn't get out of bed to retrieve it. She didn't even tell us he passed for 3 days after. She wanted to make sure we couldn't make it to the funeral so she could talk badly about us. She wrote the obituary and spelled all his biological family's names wrong, and listed all her kids and grandkids as bonus children, and left out information like his parents' and siblings' names. She was a horrible person. I knew that there was an insurance policy for me and my siblings to split. It wasn't even that big, but she was so mad that we got anything at all that she refused to give us the policy paperwork or give us his social security number so we could look it up ourselves. She claimed we would just use it to open credit cards, even though the government and credit agencies had his death certificate. She told us we didn't deserve anything at all, and she was mad he didn't leave the policy to her kids instead. So having her phone number, address, and email, I signed her up for everything. MLMs, religious calls, window and roof replacements, things like AliExpress offer emails, vacation entries that just sell your name to everyone. My daughter even helped me find new things to sign her up to so we could ramp up the spam. I heard that she was forced to change her phone number because it was so bad. Serves her right. I regret nothing. Oh, there was, in fact, a policy, and we did get it thanks to my mother keeping some old tax returns. I made sure to send my stepmother a screenshot of the policy payout. Our neighbors took our fence while we were on a road trip. So we've had issues with our attached neighbors from the moment we bought our house. Originally, it was just a 60-something female and her 18-something grandson. The day we moved in, we tried to make small talk and introduced ourselves. The woman was dropping hints that the old owners used to bake her goodies all the time and she missed it, kind of insinuating that we should be like them because she deserved to be treated like a princess. The grandson introduced himself as the worst person in town. What an intro. So afterwards, we just tried to keep a friendly distance and stay out of their way. Suddenly, after about a week of living here, they began screaming at odd hours, blasting music, banging on the walls. The police were at their house for domestic disputes monthly, due to the woman calling the cops on her grandson. We've lived here for over 2 years now, fixing up our house and making it beautiful and adding value to it. Up to this point, we've just let them have their problems, because it's not like we have kids to worry about protecting. It's just my partner and I in our mid-20s. Fast forward to last month. One evening after it got dark, we heard what we thought were gunshots right in our backyard. Mind you, we live in a downtown suburb borough with an older person facility right behind our house, so we were a little concerned. We have cameras that we installed just to be safe, so we checked them. The grandson and his friends were sitting in their yard talking about, quote, shoot another round. They'll just think it's fireworks, and that's a .45 round. Unfortunately, it was dark and we couldn't see them shoot it, but the camera picked up the sound of them shooting off 9 rounds, so we naturally called the cops. The kids then left, and the cops couldn't prove anyone was on the premises with the gun, so they let it go. In the beginning of August, the woman decided to let her daughter, sister-in-law, and their children move in with them for who knows what reason. Before this, they had only come to visit on holidays, and one time they left their infant child on the street in a carrier for over a half hour, until I knocked and let them know she was out there. None of my business, but from there on the screaming and yelling got worse, and this time with crying kids in the mix. I had half a mind to call CPS, but I've heard awful things that happen to kids in the system, so I couldn't bring myself to do it. This month we were fortunate enough to go on a road trip and see some cool places and visit family. We left the end of August and we were checking our cameras when we had service, which was not much. One day we get a call from our unattached neighbor saying our attached neighbors were building a really ugly shed with spare planks from who knows where. We tried not to worry too much because up to this point their crappy shed wasn't our problem, other than an eyesore in the neighborhood. We just enjoyed the rest of our trip and let it go. occasionally checking to make sure they weren't in our yard or anything, since it's nicely fenced in and gated. Didn't catch anything on camera other than them building their crappy shed. We arrived home a few hours ago to find that these entitled people dug out and stole part of our fence, metal post and chain link, to create a back fence/gate for their yard. This left huge holes in our back parking area that my partner almost tripped and fell into. They also tied into our fence incorrectly, pulling our fence lopsided and loose, basically damaging it. Unfortunately, our camera didn't catch them taking our fence. It just was in our yard in one frame and in theirs the next. We want to press charges but aren't sure how to go about it. We checked our seller's disclosure stating that the previous owners of our house had put the fence in, so we know it was our fence they took. I'm so livid and I know yelling at them won't fix it, but how can you be so entitled that you can't even buy your own chain link fence, but instead steal your neighbors when they aren't home? The police suggested the revenge. English is not my first language. This happened to a friend of mine years ago, and me as well, but he did the revenge. I lived in a small village by the sea. Most people had a small boat with an outboard motor. People were not poor, but far from rich. Someone began stealing gas from the boats on multiple occasions. Lots of people got livid. They lost their gas, of course, but even worse was that several ran out of gas far from shore, potentially very dangerous. A friend of mine went to the local police and got to talk to the chief of police and got the following advice. Fill a can with gas, mix it with sugar, and put the can in your boat. My friend got a bit concerned and asked if this was illegal and could get him in trouble. It is not illegal to mix sugar and gas. It is your gas. If someone steals it, it's no problem of yours. If the thief files a complaint, you can rest assured that I will follow it up, regarding all the thefts. And so he did. A nice brand new can filled to the brim with gas and lots of sugar. The can was gone the day after. Fast forward a week. The local engine repair shop got a pretty new 120 horsepower engine in for repair. As said, a small village, so after checking up on the engine, it was easy for the mechanic to put 2 and 2 together. The mechanic told the customer that the engine was beyond repair, a lie I guess, and that the customer should contact the police, because this was sabotage. The police got no complaint. Of course, the story went viral in the small community. The thief was, until then, a well-respected person. The moving van showed up a few months later. And that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed and subscribe for more. Take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.